Hi friends, it's Angie from Angela's Caches with slightly wild hair. And technically I have retired from journalism. I will continue to blog personal things and the forward going journey. Um, and I'm trying to hand the baton on. I'm very encouraged about I'm 66, so like those in their 40s, 30s, 20s that are still going forward with the truth about child trafficking, about ritual abuse, about just the hurting of children. And so I will do whatever I can to empower the following generations to to be a voice. And so that's what I'm going to do in this video. My colleague, assistant, many of you are familiar with him, Aaron, my Lithuanian assistant, absolute stalwart. 3 years we've worked together. I think 6 years he's followed my work. And he's finding more and more his feet. And he spent, I think, an entire day with a survivor on Thursday. And sometimes it's not the scoop that we're after. It's not the, oh, let's get them on and get them talking and then see them fall apart in trauma afterwards. No. Sometimes people are very early in their healing journey. But Aaron was so profoundly moved by this experience that I just want to give him a platform to tell us, and he's got permission to do this in the third person, for on behalf of this survivor. And that's the other thing. Like, I'm not always after a scoop. I don't want to interview survivors that are going to be have a nervous breakdown after disclosing. I would rather say to survivors, here's some resources. If you're ready to speak, maybe even consider making a channel, a YouTube channel, or a profile somewhere and start speaking in your own voice, But I just want to give Aaron this opportunity because he literally gave a whole day and went over and above. And this is what we need to do. If you meet a survivor or somebody you suspect to be a survivor, set some time. Just time is one of the most precious commodities we can offer each other. So over to you, Aaron. Yeah, we're definitely recording. Over to you. It's Angela's Caches. This is Aaron and of Archives of Truth. And I've just asked him to tell us a little bit about how he met this survivor, what he did to I don't know, facilitate the survivor in starting at least the healing journey. So go for it, Aaron. I'll listen to you now.
Yes. So, yeah, we were, this guy is 27 years old. And we were sort of, I don't know, pub friends, when you meet in a local pub, make friends, and sort of became friends. And there was one evening, not last week, a week before, we met him again. And so there's a few of us sitting at a table. And he's telling me, we're talking about childhood, we were talking about books, literature, he loves literature. And then it turned into talking about childhood. And then you immediately see when the person is traumatized.
Yeah.
It's especially when they had a drink.
Yeah.
And then they spill a bean or two,
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what, we can't talk. So then we exchanged numbers, and the very moment I entered my number in his phone, and he sent me a message. Hi, it's me. And I'm Lee. Yeah, fine. And 30 seconds later, I receive a message on my phone with his name saying, "Hi, it's me blank, no name," saying, "Yeah, fine." And then there's an audio recording in the message as well. And I listened to that audio recording. That's from a unknown number. 30 seconds later, literally. And in that audio recording is my conversation with him, literally like less than a minute ago.
Wow.
Minutes. So
And
basically,
I'd forgotten this part of it. And this
that's a threat.
for
Careful, you're being recorded, you're being
you're being
followed.
watched, you're under surveillance, you're being
But
recorded.
basically, not from my phone, from his phone, obviously.
Wow.
And then once I listened to the message, that message disappeared. Then I realized this is serious. This is really serious. Now this guy is from God knows where, what kind of environment or surrounding and whatever he survived, I don't know. But this is really serious.
Because you
And I
got,
said,
yeah, I just need to clarify this for people that don't understand. You got what seemed like a GCHQ or MI5 kind of hack. You got told this is all recorded. This is all like, right. I just have to ask this question. Do you think the alleged survivor could be an undercover MI5 spook?
no.
Okay.
Eventually, I found out that his father is.
Wow.
So basically, yeah, then I told him, look, we can't talk about it here. Let's meet. Let's meet. When are you free? When are you not working? So last week on Thursday, he was off. And we met like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we spent the whole day until late night. So basically, I told him to we turned our phones off. We left them God knows where. And then we went talking.
Okay, let me just clarify. So when you exchanged numbers, that was in the pub, right?
That was in the pub.
And within 5 minutes, you get your
No, within 30 seconds.
Within 30 seconds, you get your conversations played back to you.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so then you had the good sense to say, we need to meet with no phones, no Wi-Fi, blah, blah, if we're going to talk.
Yes, and we did just that on Thursday.
Wow.
Last week.
Okay.
He left his glasses. I'm still staring at his glasses at my table. He forgot his glasses, poor thing. Anyway, so then I started asking questions because I saw his arms. His arm, from elbow to his wrist, he has like 30, 40 cuts, like loads and loads of cuts.
Yeah.
And on each wrist, he has at least 10 or 12 cigarette burns. I'm like, what is this? And one is raw and fresh and big and healing. And I'm like, what's this? And he's like, yeah, I did it. I'm like, you do it yourself? He's like, yep. So yeah, that's PTSD in it.
It's worse than that. Like,
so I'm like, is this because physical pain is lesser than emotional?
Yeah, of course it is.
He's like, yep. And I'm like, so what are you suffering from? What is hurting you so much that you're doing this? Okay. He's like, I don't know, I'm sensitive to certain things. And then it just triggers me. So, okay. So when digging into his childhood, I said that clearly had been a trauma. So what about your childhood? How was it? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, how come you don't know? It goes from about 3 years old until 11 is blank.
Classic textbook. Yeah, absolutely.
From 3 years old till 11 blank. So his mother, he has a sort of good relationship with his mother. And so he had a suspicion that his mother is following his phone because it was previously his mother's phone, or she got it under her name or whatever. But we sort of figured out that no, it most likely is his father, because his father is a closed book. He never talks about himself. He doesn't know about his father much. His father was actually, when his granddad, father's father, left his grandma. So his grandma left his father in a care home from 5 years old, just dumped him into children's home.
Right.
And so he grew up, I guess he got recruited there, raped himself and recruited then, and now he's done that to his own child. And he never talks about things, and he still works for council doing various things. So in council, obviously, he has access to God knows everything. And the whole weird shebang. So basically, then I'm literally thinking that his father is connected with MI5. He's following his son, making sure his son is 27 now. His memory will start coming back, and he's making sure his son's not talking. That's what's going on, obviously.
And I don't want to put him in danger. If we release this, even though we're not giving his identity away, will his father track it? Because
I don't.
You were already tracked from the first conversation in the pub. So the truth is, his son with no memory from 3 to 11, which is classic textbook survivor stuff, and self-harming, which is also another symptom. It seems to me that his son is very, very heavily monitored. So do you have permission from him to talk in the third person about his story, or will that put him in further danger?
I don't think it would put him in danger, because it's me. I'm like asking questions, and I'm making my own assumptions. Look, we've been working with survivors. We know that
Everything you've described so far is red flag, red
it's
flag.
our own assumptions what is going on. He's not saying that. It's we know what's going on from what he told me, but he's not saying anything directly. That
And
oh,
would you be comfortable if, like, we're pre-recording this and we always put things subject to edit? Would you be comfortable sharing this privately with him and saying, "Are you comfortable with my colleague and I putting this out?"
yeah, he'll have to come and collect his glasses anyway. I'll ask him. Yes.
Yeah, it's just.
I'll ask him because then I didn't even tell him properly what exactly we're doing, but briefly I did enlighten him. So he sort of knows that I'm making assumptions based on our work.
Okay, you keep
And
telling the story, and we can hold it up for edit just to make sure that we don't put him in danger.
yeah. So basically, when I saw his arms, I was horrified, because he's done so much harm to himself. And I bet it's not only arms. The poor thing, he looks very depressed and very shy, very shy. After, well, during our conversation in the evening, he goes, I'm sorry, I'm asking too many questions, maybe. He's like, no, you're actually like better friend than most people in my life, because no one is interested in me.
Yeah.
And you're like interested in me, in my childhood, and whatever, however I feel. And yeah, so he was so grateful that I'm actually asking, is everything all right with you? What is going on? Why are you hurting yourself? And so there was no, some bad suspicion or things, like that. It was weird for him that I told him to put the phones away, because he didn't know about that message. And then I told him about that message. He's like, what? like it's obviously your phones followed, and we had to figure out how and why. And mum wouldn't have any reason to do that, but father, so secretive and completely closed book. Well, and when he told me his father's story, then I realized this is it.
Yeah, and this is something I'm finding out with trauma-based mind control victims is you have to track it back probably to the grandparents. You have to do with, like, I'm sorry to make the analogy, but with dog breeding, when you have a litter of puppies, you have to list the grandparents and the parents and then the offspring. And
Yes.
the elites are very big into breeding. They see us as animals. And so it's very important, and you did this instinctively. If you're interviewing or even trying to just help a survivor, you need to ask not just what was your childhood like, but what did your grandparents do? What did your parents do? And
another very interesting thing he told me, that from his mother's side, he said she comes from some poor area in England, and and he said that in his mother's family they couldn't have boys. I'm like, how come? How come? He said at some certain age, like 20 something, they suddenly die. They just die.
I've got to interrupt you there because that's a program. My mother had 8 pregnancies in 9 years. Only 5 of the pregnancies bore fruit. And she says the other 3 were boys. And she was told by military doctors, oh, you can't carry boys. You've got a tilted womb. That was what they told her, that her womb was wrongly placed for giving birth to boys.
And this boy, but I said, but look, your mom had a boy, you're a boy. He's like, yeah, no, it's like a first one. Because they were in her family, boys were dying in their 20s. I'm like, from what? He's like, mysterious illnesses.
Wow. My grandmother had 16 children. 5 of them died in infancy or toddlerhood. 5 of them died.
But these are boys only and in their 20s. Well, some as children, some in their 20s. I have a suspicion what was going on and what that was involved with, and some children may have been sacrificed or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we heard too many stories like this, and this is too familiar.
And this is like being blackpilled. When you've done so much research, because I got a couple of people that really got angry with me because I interviewed them and they had so many red flags. And I kept saying, right, blah, 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 asking questions. And then afterwards they said, oh, she's trying to make me into an MK Ultra survivor. I don't even know what MK Ultra is. And so it's like, it's hard to stay quiet. Like, I know that this thing of you can't carry boys, that's a program. That's what my mother was told. My father had 5.
Naturally, such nonsense doesn't really happen.
It's all Mengele type Nazi type experiments since World War II, eugenics. But
so his mother obviously comes from MK Ultra family. His father was raised in childcare and obviously groomed from then. And now doing whatever he's doing in silence, never talking.
Yeah.
So yeah, both mother MK Ultra, father also MI5 or whatever connected, because obviously they threatened me.
Within 30 seconds of you exchanging
Yes.
with him,
Yes.
he would do well to look into, just to begin his journey, just to find out if his father's in the Freemasons or Knights Round Table, Lions Club,
Will be. He's like So what about, I asked him, what is your father doing in that council? He's like, oh, some, emergencies, to organize emergencies when something happens, and with the society stuff, like all kinds of random things. So that doesn't really make sense. What makes sense that he's a bloody spy, and he's not only he's in council and keeping an eye on community and doing what needs to be done for whom it needs to be done, and things like that. He's like a connection through authorities.
So his father is already a junior politician. And I've seen those emergency response groups where it's like, oh, we've got 50 children coming in unaccompanied. We need to collect them at midnight and place them somewhere very discreet.
Yeah.
But the agony is that it doesn't matter how many red flags you and I see, it's up to this friend that you've made. And hopefully this will send him this.
So basically, we live in south of England, the very hot spot of it, very hot spot of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I told you before what was happening when I saw them, schoolboys in the middle of winter, barely dressed, being delivered to the castle on Saturday, late in the evening.
What was the name of that? That was in Sherborne, wasn't it? Sherborne.
Yeah, that was at Sherborne when we were, yeah.
And we made contact with somebody whose brothers went there, and she got frightened off. She kind of backed off. She's gone quiet.
Sherborne has a history, terrible history with that private school.
Quiet. Yeah.
Yeah, where parents went ballistic when they didn't allow parents to see. They kept children 7 days a week in school, didn't allow parents to see their children for months, with an excuse as if, so you don't interfere with their studies, but we know what's happening.
Yeah, it's the same as psych
reality. Yeah.
Or taking children into care. They're like, oh, you're going to upset their progress. We need to cut contact.
Yeah. Interrupt their programming or whatever it is.
Programming, not progress, exactly. Even Boris Johnson referred to his boarding school as Pederasty Towers or something. Like, he jokes about the fact that all the students knew that most of the teachers were kiddie fiddlers. It's horrific. Horrific.
Yes.
And it's normalized.
So basically,
anyway, keep going about the disclosures and let's.
Yes. So he's at the age where you know what happened to Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, Jimi Hendrix.
27 club, yeah, 27 club.
27, 29. Yeah, so he's 27. He's at the age when they start remembering what the hell happened to them. And that's when they get rid of them.
Well, in Jesus' name, I break that curse. I know with a lot of MK Ultra programming, usually you had until you were 30. Now, the 27 Club is a highlight of, okay, they get rid of you 2 or 3 years earlier, just in case. But most people in the old-fashioned programming, it would only last about 30 years. So by 30, a lot of people would die or quote-unquote suicide or so on. But I break any curse that he might fear of like, oh my God, I'm 27. I'm already well down the road of self-harming. Like, this must be the darkest secret of his politician father. It's like, how dare a politician be telling people what to do and how to think and what to do in emergencies, and his very own son is scarred from here to here with cigarette
and visibly, and the scars are, there's loads and loads of them, and they're massive. And so then as a parent, how come you never helped him?
And how come you're running around being
a psychiatrist or whatever? Never any help like that.
Yeah, exactly. So
none.
Nobody should be allowed to be in public office if their children are falling apart and they haven't done everything they know to do.
Cutting themselves, burning themselves, and they don't even let them see a psychologist or psychiatrist.
I had a foster child once whose father was naval intelligence, and this boy, he was delivered to me by a social worker at 1 a.m. in Suffolk, and his legs were all burned and blistered. And he had told them, "Oh, I just had an accident in chemistry class at school with the Bunsen burner." But it turned out he'd been burning his legs to try and get attention. He'd been literally burning his legs with a flame because he was in such distress. And then it turned out the military intelligence, naval intelligence father had divorced his mother, and his mother faked cancer to try and get her husband back. She cut all her hair off and made this whole story about, I'm having chemo, I've lost my hair, here's my bandana, blah, blah, blah. So his mother was in a psychiatric unit faking cancer, trying to get her husband back. And the boy was burning his legs brutally and just obviously
and he has a weird tattoo as well.
Okay, carry on.
So on his other arm, and in a very painful place all over his veins, it's a pyramid.
Okay.
It's a pyramid with a line at the top of it.
But some people don't know that. Let me just show you this chair, right? This is Joshua's gaming chair. Let me just show you the signs on the back of it. I don't think he has a clue.
That's supposed to represent the gaming console buttons.
Yeah, but it's pyramids and it's this.
But yeah. So basically, he has that pyramid. I'm like, thanks God he doesn't have above like below, you know.
Yeah, Baphomet or whatever. But like the sign thing. But anyway, tell me the rest. Tell me how it went on from there.
So then, he got a bit confused now, you know, with what's going on, and I'm then telling him, you know, what we are working on, and you know, enlightening him a bit, and he's like, no, I don't know. He's just blank.
Do you think
do you
think he dissociated? Did he dissociate?
Yes, he dissociates. He's like blank. He suddenly, you know, normally when we're talking about literature, for example, he's fluent and he's confident and he's just talking, chatting. But when I'm asking some particular questions, he's like mute, you know.
Yeah.
He gets muted. He doesn't know what to say.
Yeah.
He's blank. Like he's hypnotized to not answer questions like that.
Yeah, and you said also he seemed like when you spent hours and hours with him, he seemed confused because you didn't want anything from him. You were just being an amazing host and friend and person, and he was like, whoa, you know, usually people want something from me, you know, like you don't. He was very he was very he was very taken aback that you were not trying to get him.
Yeah, that I don't need anything from him, and then that I'm actually interested in him. I want him to get better. Yeah. I'm worried about him harming himself, that I actually care, because nobody does, even though all the wounds and burns are totally obvious. Even when he's wearing long sleeves, the cigarette burns are all over the wrists, even on a palm. So it's very, very obvious and no one is concerned.
Yeah, there are some people that I've interviewed that actually have fingerless gloves to cover their wrists because they've made so many attempts to slash their wrists. And I haven't been at close quarters with, well, I have a little bit. I had a house guest for 3 months and she used to get into baths so hot it was like boiling water out of the kettle. she would literally burn herself. She would lie in a red, scalding hot bath and come out as red as a beetroot. And
so then in the evening, I realized that he must be somehow programmed or hypnotized to not answer some particular questions. I clearly realized that something is like that is going on, because he is very fluent. He speaks, he talks, he talks confidently, and then suddenly, suddenly like pause button, And so he's like, I don't know. My father doesn't talk. He doesn't talk about anything at all. I don't know about his life. He doesn't talk, never spoke about it, and stuff like that, Basically, all kinds of suspicions straight away, So then, I just said then, in the evening, you know what, let's go have a dinner. So we went out to have a dinner, turned our phones on, and relaxed, and just ended the day having a little drink and meal, and he met another friend there, and so sort of to unwind, after all of this.
It's very intense, and sometimes I've had,
because I'm sorry, because I didn't want to traumatize him with a flood of questions and stuff.
But not just that. If you invite a survivor to disclose, you don't plant ideas in their mind, but you
just ask.
Take a safe space. But I have had experience. Two things I want to warn you of. One is I stayed with a survivor for a week, and even though she had won a court case, she'd been in a children's home. The headmaster of the children's home abused her. She got compensation for that. But in the time I stayed with her, she disclosed to me that her family was Freemasonic, both the father's side and the mother's side, Eastern Star and Freemasons. And she disclosed to me that both her father and her grandfather had raped her. And she'd never told anybody that. Like, she was happy to go to court to prosecute the headmaster of the children's home. And good for her, because he did abuse her and she did get compensated. But after she disclosed to me, she was so terrified that she'd actually finally told someone, that she turned on me and she said I was racist, I was an agent, I was this, that, and she turned on me completely. So if a survivor half discloses to you, but they don't have the courage to go the full way, then they can make you into the enemy, because you were the catalyst for them telling the secret.
For example, like when Christina and Sands started crying after 5 hours on the phone with me.
And then she raged.
And I heard her crying, and she realized, oh my God, I cried in front of someone.
I was too vulnerable. Now I'm going
to destroy it. And then she turned violent.
That's exactly it. And there was another thing I was going to say to you, which was something about, I know. The other thing I was going to say to you was, and I learned this the hard way, when I first made a DVD about 2009, 10, about my own history, I had hundreds of survivors disclosed to me, including probably 30 from my own town. But the hard lesson I learned was, even though they wanted to tell me everything, when I would say to them, will you make a report of this, or will you make an interview about this, or will you go to the police about this? No. So they left it on my shoulders. So, like, for instance, I would find out five different survivors that didn't know each other would all tell me about the same pedophile or rapist in my town. And so then I would think, oh my God, I have to warn people, I have to do something. But then when I look to them to say, will you testify? Well, Jesus, no, I moved away. No, they're too powerful. no, I'd be afraid they'd come after me. No, no, I'm only telling you because you're a survivor. I'm only telling you. And so in the end, I have stopped taking disclosures from survivors who want me to keep a secret because
Yeah,
I can't,
yes, I
I can't
I
keep.
told him briefly about my traumatic childhood and what happened and how I dissociated from even having a family or building very close relationships, and I literally turned to my career until I was 35 actually,
Yeah.
until I was 34. Yeah, and yeah, so I totally dissociated myself from building a family bond with anyone.
Yeah.
You know,
Like
even though it was a long-term relationship, but I don't think they were like family bond.
and you're still vulnerable. Like
Yeah, so I
I
told him about my traumas, my childhood. So you know, so we're even. So he knows about me, and so after this, I think we will stay friends. And but I told him each time when you come and visit me, there will be no gadgets. Like, sorry, in my house,
yeah,
there's no.
and when you like you had dinner and all the rest of it, and do you think you'll see him again, or do you think he's scared now, or
No, no, we kept exchanging messages. We're fine.
okay? Well, what
Yeah,
I suggest,
he told me, he let me know when he got home, how he got
the
home.
self-harming thing, is like everybody, to me, if we're a loving society and you see somebody raise a cup from hand to elbow and cigarette burned, any normal person would say, what's going on? What can I do to help? You know, like, what happened to you? That's
Yes, that's just normal.
that's just
If,
a
if you
normal.
care, it's normal to care about each other.
Of course it is, of course it is. So what I suggest is, um if you want to edit this and put some photographs, some information, whatever, that's fine. Or if you just want to send it to him raw, I suggest, and I pray I don't know your name, and Aaron has been very respectful of your anonymity, but I pray that you peacefully listen to the red flags and the lessons we've learned working in this field, and we're not trying to superimpose any narrative on you. We're just sharing our experience, the classic red flags, and
Yes, and because of our own experience, because of our own traumas,
yeah,
because of
but it's
other
normal.
people that we met as well. Yes.
I just want him to know that it's normal human nature. If you meet somebody who's self-harming, it's normal to say what happened. And
And also when we speak about it, then it helps other people
yeah, yeah,
who are, you know, traumatized and self-harming. You're not alone. You're not alone. You have to be strong. You know, it helps other people, you know, when they know
yeah,
they're not alone in this world, because this loneliness is what's doing it to them.
yeah. So please reach out, just reach out. I've never understood self-harming, although one could say I self-harm by smoking or whatever. Like you can self-harm in ways that are not as
My
obvious.
sister was cutting herself when they lived in Spain. She was cutting herself until her husband actually put her in mental hospital for a month
Yeah.
for recovery. Well, then that cutting stopped, but when she moved, years later, when she moved to Lithuania, um, looks like she went cutting herself again.
And people do like people do things like switching, because I was around 12-step programs quite a bit, like Al-Anon and Codependence Anonymous, and I went to 12-step programs for nicotine addiction in California, and I went sometimes for alcohol abuse myself, and but what you often see is people, they give up one thing and they just quickly take up another. So you might get somebody quits alcohol and then they gain 5 stone. So they've literally gone from drinking to eating, or you see somebody who gives up gambling and then they turn to cocaine, or it's like if you don't deal with the core issue, if you don't deal with the original trauma, which usually takes place between the ages of 4 and 7, or 0 to 7, or 0 to 12, but usually childhood trauma, unless you deal with it, you can quit this, quit that, stop this, stop that, go to yoga, meditate, blah, blah, go to 12-step programs. If you don't deal with the core trauma, you're just going to switch addictions. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, like with this boy, a family friend that I helped, who lived for half a month in my house, and I helped him to get out of the street, to get a job, and he relapsed, and now his family took him to a rehab again, because it's like it's a never-ending story.
It's a revolving door. For some people, it's a revolving door. And rehabs can be very nice. I've been to a couple of rehabs, and it's like, no phone, no internet,
Yeah, this one is sort of, you can roam free. It's a religious thing as well, a Catholic thing.
Yeah.
And he hates that religious side.
Well, the Catholics and the Scientologists and the Mormons, to be honest, but mostly Catholics and Scientologists, they've cornered the rehab market for profit and different reasons, and trafficking, because a lot of the people in those rehabs lose their children. So that's a whole nother program. We'll do a whole nother broadcast on that. But I just want to salute you, Aaron, as well as giving you the warnings. You can't, if somebody never becomes willing to disclose, then it's left in your head and on your mind, and it's a heavy weight to carry. And I in the end, I had to say to people, don't come to me with secrets. I can't carry it. It's like, I can't, if you want to come and tell me the horrors and then you want me to keep it secret.
Yeah. But with this guy, it was big, great, massive, bright red flag with his depression, with his obvious cuts and burns all over. It was just alarm, alarm, alarm. I couldn't not ask him. I couldn't.
And I salute you. And I salute you for what you did, and that you set aside a whole day. And I know it weighed heavy on you for days since. So look, let's upload this. I suggest you send him, just say to him out of courtesy, I don't want to put you in danger. Do you want to just check this over before I release it? This is
I'll show it to him. Yeah.
All right, sweetheart. I'm going to let you go.
Okay.